to all of you who've taken the time to be here on a pretty nice day where I know you could be out there working the farm. I am grateful for you to be here, and hopefully I'll be able to give you some information that'll make the trip worthwhile. I also want to thank John Newsom, who's the field director for the Indiana Farm Bureau, because he helped to set up this event. So thank you very much, John. What I want to do is spend more time listening than talking, because I spend an awful lot of time talking all day long. I talked to, we had 13,000 people in Bloomington last night. We had 18,000 down in North Carolina, and it's wonderful to see these big crowds, but the problem is you don't really learn much when you're listening to yourself talk. But you do learn a lot when you listen to the American people. So just very briefly, I want to tell you a little bit about my perspective on this campaign, but also my perspective on rural America. I started this campaign 15 months ago because I felt that not only was the country on the wrong track, but this election gave us an opportunity to really change how politics is done in Washington. And that, I believed, was the only way that we were actually going to see different results. We've heard every 4 years from both Democrats and Republicans a lot of promises. Promises about how we're going to fix the health care system. Promises about how we're going to fix energy. Promises about how we're going to bring back good jobs that have been shipped overseas. Promises on every problem under the sun. And yet, every 4 years, we end up being a little disappointed because it doesn't seem as if Washington is working for us. We've been talking about health care for decades. And yet, year after year, the only thing that changes is your premiums, your deductibles, your co-payments have gone up. Then that's if you have health insurance. Meanwhile, 47 million people don't have health insurance. Why is that? Well, the drug and the insurance companies spent $1 billion over the last 10 years preventing reform from happening. So it shouldn't come as any surprise that the laws that come out of Washington have been good for drug and insurance companies and HMOs, but they haven't been so good for you. The same is true when it comes to energy. We've been talking about energy independence at least since the 70s, since Jimmy Carter and oil lines and OPEC, and yet the only difference between now and then is we actually import more oil from the Middle East. ExxonMobil, for the second consecutive quarter, posted $11 billion worth of profits. And folks are paying $3.75 up to $4 at the gas pump, and as Kurt said, paying a lot more for diesel fuel. Why is that? Well, when George Bush put Dick Cheney in charge of energy policy, Mr. Cheney met with the renewable energy groups once, and he met with the oil and gas companies 40 times. So it's not surprising then that the laws have been pretty good for big oil and big gas, but they haven't been so good for you. I guess my point is that the reason I decided to run this race was I thought that the American people were tired of a politics that is based on tearing each other down. They wanted a politics that was about lifting the country up. They were tired of a politics that was about spin and PR. They wanted a politics that told the American people the truth about how we're going to solve problems. And I want to give a very specific example of the kinds of changes that we've been talking about during the course of this campaign. I haven't taken PAC money, and I haven't taken money from federal registered lobbyists. I don't take them from big agribusiness. I don't take it from oil companies. I don't take campaign contributions from the drug company PACs or the insurance company PACs. Senator Clinton and John McCain have disagreed with me on this. They say, well, those lobbyists represent real Americans. I don't think they do. And so our campaign has been financed by you, the American people. And that means that when I'm evaluating any bill that comes before me, whether it's the farm bill or it's an energy bill, I am accountable to you. I'm not accountable to anybody else. That's the kind of change I think we need. That's what I've been pushing on. Another example, telling the truth. Kurt mentioned this whole issue of gas prices. Look, it is crushing people, and it's obviously having a huge effect on your bottom line. But when John McCain, the best proposal he can come up with is a suspension of the gas tax
for 3 months, which will save the average driver 30 cents a day and add up to 28 cents in total savings. Well, that's a gimmick. That's not solving the problem. Worse yet, it comes out of the Federal Highway Transportation Fund, which means we're not rebuilding our roads and our bridges that are vital to commerce here in Indiana and employ thousands of people during the summer. And what's worse, economists say that without the gas tax, there's nothing to prevent the oil companies from just jacking up the price the same amount that the gas tax was. And we might end up driving more because the gas tax has been eliminated. So that will keep on driving prices up. All around, this was a bad idea. But the reason that it was presented was not because it was a good idea. It was because politically it looked like it might be a winner. That folks in Washington might be able to say, look, we did something, and they might get some votes between now and Election Day. And I've said, no, we can't keep on doing that all the time. You know, we can't make our decisions based on what's politically popular, but we've got to make it based on what America needs. And what America needs right now is they need tax relief, and that's why I've proposed a middle-class tax cut for $1,000 per family. And what we need is a real energy policy, one that invests in alternative fuels that can create jobs and rebuild rural America. We need to invest in fuel-efficient cars and raise fuel efficiency standards. And the government has to invest in research and development on the whole energy sector so that we can start creating an entire economy based on solar and wind and biomass and biodiesel. We can generate millions of jobs in the clean energy sector and improve our environment and create a more sustainable foreign policy because we won't be shipping oil all day long from the Middle East. And that's what we've proposed in this campaign. So that's the choice that I believe exists in this election. Are we going to go keep on doing the same things over and over again, or are we going to try to actually roll up our sleeves and solve problems? And that applies to rural America as well, and our rural agenda and farmers all across Indiana, all across my home state of Illinois, and all across the Midwest. Now, we've put together a rural agenda that all of you, I think, received on the way in. So I'm not going to go point by point on every issue. But let me just say that it is my belief that rural America represents what's best about America. Hard work, responsibility, individual initiative, a sense of community, a sense of family. And the fact that rural America is having such a difficult time indicates that we've lost focus on our values and our ideals. When we've got billions of dollars of government subsidies going to big agribusiness or people who live in Manhattan and have never seen a farm, at the same time as family farmers are struggling because property values are going up, their costs are going up, and it's just hard to compete in a global economy with these huge multi-billion-dollar players. Something's wrong. When we've got a situation in which rural towns and rural communities can't hang on to their young people because young folks feel like they don't have jobs that will sustain them and their families, so they have to move away in order to make a living, something's wrong. So what I've tried to do is to say we're going to protect the family farm. We're going to make sure that that's our priority. We're going to emphasize conservation. We are going to develop an alternative energy economy that creates jobs and is good for family farmers, but that is also sustainable and is there for the long term. We're going to make sure that we're thinking about the next generation by creating incentives for young people to go into farming and make sure that they've got the financial resources, the capital, in order to make those investments. We are going to develop the infrastructure, not just roads, bridges, locks, dams, but also schools and hospitals that allow people to stay in rural communities and prosper?